Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make this video. Say hello to my cats. Anyways, there's my other cat. So about radios, right? Okay, what are the problems we have with radios? Okay, this right here is a really good radio. This Quajing radio, I'm very impressed with it. It has very good transmit audio, and it has a microphone gain adjustment, which is something you need. Now this is the Quajing TG-UV2 antenna. The antennas that come with all these radios, they suck. The only reason why I'm keeping the stock antenna on this one is because, well, I don't use it all that much. You have to know, you have to do your research, and you have to know what you like. So I'm going to run down the main things that I have issues with these radios. Is number one is the antennas. This is the Quajing TG-UV2 antenna. You can get this, Google it, you'll find it. Um, and sometimes you get them for like $5, sometimes they're $16. It depends on the price. So, but now probably the cheapest you're going to get, it's like $8 or $9 now with shipping, probably closer to 11, 12, 13. So these radios are very good radios here. These are very good radios. I highly recommend this Retevis antenna. Now inside this antenna, I'm not going to take it off, but I got some antennas here I can show you. Is the problem is the little connectors inside. Is hopefully you guys can see because I'm videotaping with the light on. Here's a stock Quajing antenna. I have a way of testing antennas, and if they don't test good, they kind of go in the pile over here. Like this is like my works, but kind of, and then I have a pile, and then if I find that the antenna is unsatisfactory, it goes right in the trash can. So no sense keeping a bad antenna. Right there, that center pin connection. What I do is I stuff a little piece of wire in there, and then I screw it down on the radio with the radio upside down, because you do not want that center pin connection or the shield on the outside to short. So, or a lot of times what you can do inside the radio, if you're good with soldering, you can actually add some solder on that center pin and then screw the antenna down. I've actually done that, snipping off with a pair of side cutters. And, if you're good with soldering, but if you don't have access to all that stuff like I do, or you're not good with it, then just stuff a piece of wire up inside the antenna. Don't stuff too much wire because you can actually wear down the center pin, because from the factory, these center pins barely make a good enough connection. Okay. Now, the other thing I was talking about, the way that I test the antennas, is there's a radio station that I listen to over here. This is just the quickest, dirtiest way that I do it. If I remember, oh yeah, this radio doesn't have FM, but okay. This radio is a really good company. This radio has really loud transmit audio. And when you're looking for a radio, the number one thing is transmit audio, transmit audio, transmit audio. You want it loud. So let me go ahead and grab a radio here, like this one. This one's also a very good radio, this Iniseku radio and this iRadio. But again, you really have to play with these radios. You'll notice that I have the Quajing TG-UV2 antenna and this telescoping antenna on here. These are like my favorite antennas. These two antennas work really well. I've tested a lot of antennas, so... Oops. Somebody's actually talking.
1498, I'll have the same traffic, and I'll be 85 to RDS.
Okay, so let me go ahead and give you an example of the transmit audio. Audio, check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
10-4, 1521.
Okay, because they happen to talk while my simplex repeater. But anyways, see if I can do it again. Audio, check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, this radio is not dual receive, unfortunately. It's dual.
Audio, check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
And as you can see, I didn't have it turned up. I didn't have it turned up that loud. So these radios, I run these on like 21, 22, 23. Mic gain adjustment comes set to like 16 or 18. I go through, and there's a lot of things about this radio that you need to know. I don't want to get into all the details, but basically I went through all the settings to get this radio to perform the best way, to where it opens up the quickest, to where it has hardly no squelch tail crash, tail tone repeater elimination. I have that turned on. Sometimes I turn it off. DTMF on time, DTMF off time, how long you want the keystrokes to be in the beginning of the transmission, how long you want the radio to key up before the DTMF engages, and how long you want the radio to keep transmitting after the stuff. So it all goes in milliseconds. Okay, so let me see if I can. Oops. Now this radio, I changed the settings, but anyways, because if I stop the video, this phone will not start up recording again. But anyways, see if I can show you here. Oops. Exit. Give me a second. And I want to say it was this button here. It should say start FM radio or hold it down. There it is. So this is how I check my radios, quick and dirty. is this radio station, 92.3. And this is a pretty far away station from over here in Kingman. They're like in Bullhead. So if I can't pick up this radio station on the stock rubber ducky antenna, the rubber ducky antenna goes right in the trash, because it may that means it's not making a good connection in there, or that means the antenna is not resonant to the radio. But these Quajiang TG-UV2 antennas, I've had very good luck with them. I've had like a 90% success rate with these antennas. Sorry about the poor video quality. But yeah, this is the radio station that I use to check every single radio without having to put it on a signal analyzer, without having to inject it with tones, without having to go through all that. As you can tell, low audio quality. And another thing is if you're left or right-handed, you're going to want the microphone hole on the right-hand side. It's just more comfortable. I mean, otherwise you got to get used to talking on the left-hand side with your left hand. You just got to get used to that. So something small to keep in mind as the placement of the microphone hole. My best placement is here. Now, some radios have the microphone hole down here. They have it up here. They have it over. I like it in the bottom right-hand corner because I'm right-handed, or the left-hand corner, either one, but preferably the right, because if you're right-handed, of course. But so those are the things you have to keep in mind. Again, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can show you the transmit audio. Now this one, what I had to do is I had to actually drill out the mic hole a little bit. And as you're drilling out the mic hole, you got to be careful not to go too deep to where you damage the microphone, and then it defeats the whole purpose. So, it's soft plastic. Do it with a small Phillips screwdriver, but do it at your own risk, because if you go too deep, you will ruin that microphone in there, and then you got to take the radio apart and solder in a new mic. And the only way to get a new mic is there's only one way to get it. Either off another radio, or those little lapel things that come with the radio. You can use. I've used those mics. Just make sure you wire it up correctly and solder it in there correctly. So, yeah, these radios I'm really impressed with. So, okay, now the other issue that I had with this radio, I have three of them here. I don't seem to have it too much with these radios, but this one has like a delay on opening up on this one back here that I'm pointing to, has like a delay on opening up on VHF. Like the other radios will start receiving the local VHF fire department or the local VHF police over here, because they're still analog over here in Kingman, and it'll open up, like the regular radio will open up like a full 16th of a second before this one. And I noticed it. I went through all the settings, and I told iRadio about it. Hopefully they fix the problem on the new radios. But that was something that I noticed. So that's something else you got to be mindful of, is how long does it take for the receiver to open up on the radio? Because you don't want to miss the first or second word of what the person's saying, because some people don't know to key 1001, 1002 and then start talking. Some people, they just start talking as soon as they hit the button or before they hit the button. So that can be a problem. This Wuxon radio is a heterodyne. I like it, but the problem with this radio I do not care for. If I can pull it up, and yes, my chargers are all Velcro down or double-sided tape down. So, and yes, I know there's a lot of dust in here. This is Arizona, so excuse the dust. I mean, there's dust everywhere here, but so the audio quality on this kind of sucks.
I'll be out at KBD's 103.
It sounds okay, but not the best. Anyways, it sounds okay. I prefer the audio quality of this one and this one, especially when you're listening to FM radio. It sounds so much better. Now, the Zastone Radio Company is a good radio company if they can pull their head out their ass. Their radios to me just seem like they're 5 years behind, but they're nice looking radios, but they're like 5 years behind. Now, something you want to be very careful of when buying a radio. Do not, whatever you do not buy any radios that are programmable by Bluetooth. And let me explain the reason why. Because the Bluetooth module inside the radio interferes with the receiver. It also interferes with the AM/FM radio. So always get the radios without the Bluetooth. Get the standard versions only. Because every radio that I've ever gotten that had Bluetooth had a problem. It couldn't hear shit. The only radio that I've ever bought that had good Bluetooth is this VGC N76 radio. It doesn't seem to, I guess, because they have good shielding inside here. And I know I've been talking like for 10 minutes now. But this radio here comes in a GPS and a Bluetooth model. That's the old standard version. I might buy it just to test it out. But like I said, the antennas that come on these radios, they suck. And this one, I have this antenna works really well. There's a couple of other antennas that I like. The HYS antennas are good. The Retevis antennas are all good. The other thing is, you got to know what you want. This radio, again, same problem with this radio. I have two of these. This one has the louder transmit audio because, they set them in the factory with an old Hewlett Packard, 59 2B1 or whatever. I'll show you. I have one of the machines in my matter of fact. So what I had to do on this radio is if you take out these screws, they're going to strip to get to that mic hole. So what I had to do, the mic hole is right there. So you can see I had to dig it out. I had to dig out that mic hole very carefully without ruining the microphone inside. So whenever you do a microphone modification, you have to be very careful not to ruin the radio. So let me go ahead and put this back before I forget, because we do have earthquakes over here in Arizona. Despite what people say, we do have tectonic plates over here, believe it or not. So things do fall. You have to secure it anyway. So let me go ahead and go to the other room here. And I'm very sorry about the crappy video. I'm just trying to explain all this to you, because if I stop the video, it'll start up another video, and on this phone, I don't have that option. So this is my little workstation where I test a lot of radios. This radio here, very low transmit audio. If you see this type of radio, do not buy it. It's a good crossband radio. It's a good dual receive radio. But I had to take this radio apart. As you can see, I had to modify this one, and I had to super glue the microphone back in place on the back part of the mic with the, because I had to I had to do some work on this radio. I took it all apart like 3 times. So another radio company that I would absolutely suggest is this radio here. This K-Long, this radio I am very impressed with. Has very good transmit audio. Only downside is that it's on the left-hand side, so you talk left-handed, but oh well, who cares? Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. And this one is really loud. Sometimes they talk real low. Okay, but now this one I left the stock antenna on because the stock antenna performed just as well as the Quashang. So I didn't have to put no aftermarket antenna on this one. So let me do it again. Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
And then let me see. And then that's about how loud it. So it barely had it up. That's bottomed out, and then that's where it was, like right there. So yeah, this is. I got 2 of these radios, and again, you're not going to get radios that sound identical, that perform identical. Sometimes you're going to get them with a cold solder joint. Sometimes you're going to get them with bad batteries. Sometimes you're going to get them with louder audio. Sometimes you're going to get them with.
59, my apologies. If you could contact Dinkies, let them know they're not going to be able to come in off of Davis. They'll have to come in off Parker. The fence won't allow a tow truck to go through.
So sometimes you're going to get radios to where you have to scream into them. But like I said, I highly recommend this radio company. You just Google image search this and you'll like it. But the thing is I had to pay a tariff on this radio for it to come. So yeah, so when it comes by UPS, I had to pay like an additional $24, $25 to get 2 of them. And it took like a month for them to come. Anyways, that's my oscilloscope. That's my arbitrary waveform function generator, tone generator, my 2 signal analyzers, and this is my other waveform generator. And it's also a frequency generator too and stuff like that. But anyways, I don't use this equipment very often, but when I do use it, I need it. I use it like 2 or 3 times a year, I'm being honest, because I don't work on radios, but maybe I should. But, this is a very good radio company, TYT. They make very good, clear sounding radios. And by the way, Anytone, I believe, is the parent company for Stryker, and TYT, I believe it's the parent company. Stay away from this radio because, again, great radio, low transmit audio. These TID radios are excellent radios. Now, you're going to say, well, which radio should I buy? Well, that's the thing. Do you want to go DMR? Do you want to go MMDVM? And yes, I have another one there because this one took a shit because, we're running an amplifier in the kitchen. So when you're running CB power, it's going to eat up your MMDVM. So I don't even know why I have this thing. It's junk at this point. But anyways, low transmit audio. That's like my number one thing is low transmit audio, low transmit audio, low transmit audio, because what good is a radio if you can't hear each other in a loud environment? And that's something else you got to look for is a radio with a 700 milliwatt to 1 watt to 2 watt output on the RF audio output section. I'm talking about the speaker, because these radios, some of them you'll turn them up all the way and this one's dead, but you won't hear shit. You won't hear shit. And so I got some more junk radios in here. A lot of these Chinese radios you're gonna buy, you're gonna find. And here's something else you need to know: is this one I don't like it because it like. Let's see if I can get the radio to turn on. So I don't like this radio because this radio this radio it doesn't agree with my brain. It doesn't have like that 430 hertz audio fidelity that I'm so used to growing up with old amplifiers. That's what I'm used to. This is like, I don't know what they did, but I just don't like this radio because, let's see, audio check 1 2 3 3 2 1. You're gonna hear it. I guess I don't. Oh, there it is. Yeah, see, that's why I don't like it. See, 1 2 3 3 2 1.
1 2 3 3 2 1.
You can hear how nasally the radio sounds. It sounds very nasally. So when you're used to like more I mean, this is an old XTS radio or that's the non-DTMF pad. But when you're used to a Motorola and then you hear this piece of crap, it just makes you want to throw this piece of junk in the trash can because it's a good looking radio. It's nicely designed, but the audio quality on this is just garbage. It's an okay, it has okay, and as you can see, I make the holes bigger because the first thing you got to do is get that loud transmit audio in there. So what radio would I recommend? Honestly, if you want to go DMR, go with TUIT, Alluance, or Retevis, same company. Well, TUIT separate. I think they're all owned by, I think they're all owned by Anytone. Anytone and Quajang and Baofeng, I think are all the parent companies. But anyways, and then there's an old Same Sonic back there. That radio is an oldie but a goodie now. That radio works really well. I've gotten a lot of good reports on that radio. Anytone radio, they come in a DMR Moto Turbo one. They're like $300, $300. There's the low audio Quajang. There's my other one with the low audio on it. And then here's an old school GE Ericsson. These radios are tanks. But the problem with these old commercial radios is you're going to spend a freaking fortune on them, but they are worth it. They are worth it. They are worth it. Let me tell you, because they don't desensitize. They have good audio. I mean, of course, the downside is you have to program it with a radio interface box. You need an old DOS computer. I mean, of course, there's newer stuff. With commercial radios, you need all of your own stuff. The advantage that these Chinese radios have is that you can do everything on the radio. With the exception of updating the firmware is the only thing you can't do. And adding code plug are like the only two things you can't do, but everything else you can do. And code plug has to do with when you're talking on DMR, it comes up with all their contact information. So when it says 5,000, 10,000, 30,000 contacts, that's code plug. Code plug covers that. Well, that's actually contact. And then code plug has to do with DMR and MMDVMs, multiple mode digital voice modems. But anyways, CB radio, another good option. And again, I'm getting too in depth here. You also have to learn how to use an antenna analyzer. That's a discontinued one. They don't make them anymore. You have to learn about impedance, inductance, velocity factor, coefficiency, inductance, capacitance, SWR, VSWR. You need to learn about all that stuff. And again, I don't do this stuff but like 2 or 3 times a month to keep myself freshed up on it. But I know it enough to where when somebody needs me to do something, I can definitely do it. Doesn't hurt to have little amplifiers around, but one good radio that I highly recommend, if I have it here, I'm trying to think where it is. Oh, right, this one. This 80-watt President Washington with the President microphone. Now, I know a lot of you people are probably thinking, you must be in some credit card debt. Well, yeah, you're probably right. I am. I still owe like $300 and all this shit. I've been paying it off a long time, but this is why I don't have a girlfriend. But anyways, power supplies. You're going to need power supplies. I have a spare one right there. I have a power supply right there, and of course, that plugs into the wall, but you can 12 volt it, but I'm not going to. See what else? Oh yeah, scanners. You need scanners because, well, scanners can hear things and scan things a lot faster than your Chinese radio because of the processing chip in them. Amplified microphones. And you're going to need to know how to work on them, how to read schematics, how to do wiring diagrams, how to take them apart, how to put stress relief, how to add connectors, do all this stuff yourself. I'm not a radio shop, but I am a radio guy and I do work on radios. And if I was to boot this computer up, you're going to see all the programs that I have on here for all my Chinese radios. You're going to need an equalizer if you want to go CB radio, if you want to get that good, clean, clear audio. Now, when you have an amp, these are bitchin' microphones. Now, when you're running an equalizer, you can only run a non-amplified mic, like a 636L static. This is also another good radio. This is the Quajeng KG-UV2Q radio. I highly recommend this radio. Highly, highly, highly. And something else I do is I immediately take off the covers and I put 3-inch booking tape all around it, and I cut it out with a razor blade because, you know, the plastic cover that comes on it comes off and you can easily scratch the screen. Yaesu FT60, oldie but a goodie. Alenco, oldie but a goodie. ICOM, oldie but a goodie. And some of these older ham radios that I have low transmit audio. Of course, this one doesn't because I kicked it up to 5. I remember this one only allowed me up to like 7 kilohertz cycle on the audio, but it's really like 4.8, 4.7. Same thing with this one. I remember it allowed me to go up to like 5 or something like that, but it only does like 4.2, 4.4. Out of the box, it did like 3.6. You had to like yell into it. I didn't like it. And these actual ham radios, there's a lot to these. There's multiple boards in them. You know, I mean, this radio is an IC92A. But anyways, I'm just rambling here. But a lot of these old radios have really good shielding in them, really sensitive receivers. Something you want to look for is something that goes down to 12 dB SINAD. I don't have a 12 dB SINAD meter here. The only way that I have to test sensitivity is I inject a signal, and I have all the cables in that box right there. What I can do is I can inject a signal into the radio down to -117, -126, -132 dBm, dBi, however you want to do the measurement. And so basically you do a 1000 kilohertz tone or 1750 kilohertz tone or 1250 kilohertz tone. You go through all the frequency band. It's called a sweep. And basically what you do is you get the radio, and that tells you how sensitive the receiver on the radio is. And you go through all the squelch settings 1 through 10, and you write them all down. Okay, squelch setting 1 is -126 to -128. Squelch setting 2 is -122 to -118, so on and so forth. So, and that way you know how sensitive each radio is, because again, radios are only as good as the receivers in them, and as good as the microphones that you talk into. So, you know, I preferably like these old KPL microphones because you can talk like this far away from them, and I usually run it like right about there because, you know, of course I've ran it all the way up and I still get good reports, but like usually right about there. And, you know, there's lots of little things that you have to know about radio. Something else you can do, I don't recommend it, is you can recharge alkaline batteries. They have an alkaline battery. You can do it about up to 30 times before you have to throw the battery away, and you're going to need a DVOM tester to test the voltage on them. And once you do it about 10 or 15 times, throw the batteries away. And something about UPS power supplies is I run an external battery on the outside. Whereas if you look down there, you'll see the wire, and it goes down to that battery over there. So anyways, because the batteries that come in them, they suck. I'm just like all over the place here. You know, you're going to need connectors and all kinds of stuff, and you know, extra antennas and adapters and SM. I mean, it's not just buying the radio. It's you know, it's all the other crap that goes with it. You know, spare batteries, a box full of chargers, and just, you know, it's just one thing after another. But you know, and I got Bluetooth microphones in there. I don't use them. The reason why is because the bit error loss rate on them is so bad that it just sounds better coming out the radio. That's why I don't use them, because they're so broken up, but I can use them with my phone. But the audio and the microphone and the audio coming out of the radio sounds so much better. CB radio walkie-talkies. Here's another one. Do not use anything but alkaline batteries, which those batteries go to this radio. Do not, because if you store them in the radio, the batteries will go dead like in a week. So do not use anything but alkaline batteries in a CB radio. And the reason why, because if you use lithium ion batteries, it completely screws up the receive on these radios. Now, I had a talk with the Quajeng radio company. I said, doesn't running a lithium battery mess up the receiver on the radio? And yes, it does. Every radio now has a lithium iron battery. You know, those old radios over there have nickel metal hydride or cadmium or NiCad battery, not NiCad batteries. So I'm sorry I've been talking for 25 minutes straight, and it does affect the receive on the radio unless the radio is really well shielded, which, you know, these ham radio, more professional radios are better shielded. Your Quajeng Baofeng radios are not going to be that well shielded like this one over here. They're just, you know, your run-of-the-mill kind of take them apart, single board, no shielding in the radio whatsoever. crappy antenna, got to yell in the microphone, and if you get any water in them, they're done. I mean, but then again, these are under $30, so what do you expect? And if you drop them, they're done. They're completely done. They're useless. But anyways, there's my little GMR simplex repeater and my amplifier and another power supply. And again, like I said, you can't have too many power supplies, and you can't have too many. I got to hook that meter up. But anyways, that's another project. And you know, but anyways, that's my video. So I think I've pretty much gone over everything here in the radio room that I can go over. And oh, and by the way, when you're running a firmware update on any radio, make sure that you download the correct firmware, because you can brick your radio. Now this one has the original firmware. I have not updated it, and the reason why is because there's like literally 6 or 7 different firmware packages, and I bricked one radio, an RTS80 and RT82 radio. I bricked one radio, and I said I'm never going to do it again. So what I need to do is I need to call this company up, give them the serial number, and they can send me the correct firmware. Because when you're doing a firmware update on these radios, you're doing it at your own risk. It's 100% at your own risk. And it tells you can absolutely brick the radio. And that's the one, you don't want to pay $500 for a radio just to brick the damn thing. So this radio works fine. It works for GMRS. It works for ham. So I'm leaving it as is because I don't want to fuck it up. So that's why I've chosen not to update it, because if I load the wrong firmware in it, I just ate the radio. And these radios are now $600-700, and I got this like when it was like 300. I got this like 3-4 years ago, and this is the version 2 plus. But anyways, now they're up to like the 2 plus whatever. They're like 3 above this one now. But anyways, so anyways, that's my video. What radio should you get for your first radio? My advice is this one, the KG-UV2Q. Get that radio, and get that Quajang radio, and get the Anytone radio and a Moto Turbo, or if you don't have need for Moto Turbo, then that Quajang radio is a good choice. Oh, but actually, that first Quajang radio that I showed you in the beginning of the video, that's the one that I would suggest. I would highly suggest this one right here. This is the radio. But just keep in mind, it will transmit out of band, but I don't recommend it because you can burn up the final in this radio, the finals. So just keep it in 220, 440, and T-band and VHF, and you'll be fine. And when I say T-band, I mean 500 megahertz, like 100 to 500 megahertz. Keep it in there, or like 130, 140 to 480, and you'll be fine. So don't take this radio outside of its limits, even though it will, because the power drastically drops off, and that's how you know that the radio is not made for those frequencies. Anyway, so that's my video. I do have here at my disposal some of these radios, but the reason why I don't use these radios, even though they have good transmit audio, is because you only get 16 channels, and it's only like a 1.82 watt output. I think this one's like a 1.7, so these will not talk very far. And the phone that I'm recording this on is a Ulefone Armor 26 walkie-talkie. This radio has like a 2 watt output on VHF and UHF, but again, if you want to talk the distance, you're going to have to get an actual radio. All right, well, that's my video, and there you go. Or if you want an app-based radio, get that 76 down there, and then another good radio, another good cheap one is this one here, the Bentalk. But for everyday travel, I prefer this radio because it's slimmer and you can put it in your pocket. They do make an extended battery, which I have in there, but it makes it too bulky to put in your shirt pocket. Because, that's something else you got to consider, is how bulky the radio is, how easy it is to carry around. When they make them this thick, in my opinion, they might as well just make them all the way down to here, like a regular size radio, so you can just wear it. This is like an awkward size to where you can't put it in your shirt pocket, but you can't wear it on your belt. So what they need to do is just make it just like a regular tall UV32 radio, like the Baofeng. Just make it like that, to where you can just throw it in your pocket. It's because these radios are like a weird in-between size. They don't feel right in your pocket, and they don't fit in your shirt pocket. And they're too, they're like, it's either make it slim or make it big. With radios, in between sizes really don't work for carrying around. It's so awkward. You're going to find out. But anyways, and that's something else, USB charging. But anyways, so that's about it. And some of them come with cradles, some do, some don't, some no. And that's another thing, is you're not getting earbuds with the radios anymore. If you want an earbud, you got to buy them separate now, because that's something they stopped supplying. And you don't get cradle chargers anymore. But some of them you get it, some of them you don't. You just have to do your research. but yeah, that's about it. And like I said, get the Quajang and get the Wuxon radio. Those would be like two really good starter radios. The only reason why I got this radio is because it does DMR. If you're not going to do DMR, then just get the Quajang and get the Wuxon radio. And again, this radio will transmit 220, but you have to go in there and you have to change the bands. There's a way to do it. Tons of videos on this radio. You hold down a couple of buttons and you change the region on the radio, then the radio reboots and whatever. But then you put it in VFO mode, if I remember. But anyways, yeah, a lot of different radios for different things, and of course, a shortwave radio is a good thing to have. Again, different antenna, different connector. I did all that. I don't really care for this one because this thing has like a short in it. It goes dead after a week, so I have to like constantly keep it. I was going to put a switch on it to cut the short, but I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. It's a little project. I got to drill a hole, and then now these things are like $300 to $500 now. These SDR radios on AliExpress, they're freaking ridiculous. The prices on this radio gear have like shot way up. I mean, it's almost the price of buying a Motorola MPX radio. I'm not kidding. But anyways, or like a used one. SDS 100 scanner, with a waterfall display, and that one I've only done one firmware update on it so far. Now that's easy because you do it off the Sentinel software. That one I can't screw up because, again, remember how I said about putting the wrong firmware on the radio? You can brick the radio. So that's about it. This is a really good radio, this Riddell. Very, very happy with this radio, but the transmit audio on this is a little bit splattered. You're going to hear. So let me go and key it up. Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Check 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
You can hear how splattered the transmit audio. It's loud enough, but it's a little bit so. So that's something you got to be careful of is the receive quality, the transmit audio, 12 dB SINAD. It's got to be able to receive down to like negative 123 dBm to like negative 128 dBm. Or negative 116, negative 118 for walkie-talkie is real good. But for a mobile radio, you don't want anything less than negative 121, negative 123 dBm, because that's really, and I believe 12 dB SINAD starts at negative 132 dBm. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But anyways, I've talked so much that I'm actually hungry. Kitty wants me to shut up, and I'm going to go ahead and end the video.